CFB Paint Week 10 preview and predictions. Let's go. I call this, I know you saw it on the show notes already, but for the listeners, I call this Hold Serve Saturday. Basically, my view on the week is like you can't necessarily like insert yourself into like the playoff picture with a big win this week outside of the major game of Penn State and Ohio State, which frankly I think both of them are probably already in. I mean, again, like they have to kind of keep taking care of business, but like avoid a stumble in their in. But a stumble for a lot of these contenders this week would kind of effectively eliminate them. Lots of like touchdown to like even like almost like 20-point spreads. So you got, like, to give you an example, number 5 Miami is a 20-point favorite versus Duke. Ole Miss is a 7-point favorite versus, I didn't actually get that one down. Whoops. It's a 7-point favorite against whoever they play. I want to say that is
Arkansas.
Arkansas, thank you. Oregon, 14-point favorite at Michigan. Georgia, 17-point favorite versus Florida on neutral in Jacksonville. Indiana, -8 on the road at Michigan State. Tennessee, I think a 16-point favorite against Kentucky. Like the list goes on, right? Like, okay, like the favorites are not facing, like the major contenders in the sport right now are not facing one another by and large. Again, the major exception being Ohio State, Penn State. But the rest of those, like, just don't be the team that loses, right? Like, don't be the team that loses. And then the rest of them that aren't in that scenario where they're kind of like, all right, it's not a complete walkover of a game. Most of the rest of them are on buys. Like there's a lot of buys this week, so it's kind of like hold serve Saturday for those that are playing. The rest, it's like, all right, this is the last sort of break before the slog of the end of the season. Maybe you get a little break between or either on conference championship week heading into a potential playoff game. But I don't know, Corey, how are you seeing this week? Who are some teams that you think are vulnerable?
Well, first I want to tell you how I see it this week. Kind of like you. You mentioned that like it's would you call it this Saturday?
Hold serve, like in tennis, right? Where it's like, okay, like I win when I'm serving, which is what you're expected to do.
Yeah. To me, the quote that comes up is the one from Hitch. He's like, she already made a plan when she could have blown you off. That means it's no longer your job to make her like you anymore. It's your job not to mess it up, and that's where we are. It's your job not to mess it up.
I love it. I love it.
And like, yeah, these teams have put themselves in position all year. They aren't going to face powerhouses for the most part. You're still going to have some challenging games. We all know a 7-point spread can go either way, right?
Yeah.
But you put yourself in a position to be successful and to continue to be in the playoffs. Don't get yourself eliminated this week by losing. What games am I excited about? Honestly, I feel like there are teams that are favored, but they're going to be better games than we expect. The Ohio State Penn State game, sadly,
banger.
Going to be banger. Sadly at noon. We talked about
this. What are we doing? I agree. I think we already said this.
Well, yeah, we talked about this earlier, but whatever. At least we kick off our mornings with a great game. Moving on, also within that same thing, Minnesota, Illinois. Is Illinois for real? Do they have a chance to be a part of this Big Ten talk, or does Minnesota bring them back to reality? Illinois was 6-1. They lost last week in a big loss against Oregon. They're not favorites against Minnesota this week. Do they come back down to earth? Are they really like a mid-tier team, or are they actually as good as they want to be? That game kind of interests me. The Oregon-Michigan game. Can Michigan pass the ball? They did pretty well passing the ball last week. Can they do it against Oregon? That's a different story, and we'll see how that goes. And Oregon in the Big House. Can you like? We're getting these great crossovers of Ohio State over in Oregon. We're getting Oregon now at the Big House just because of all these kind of changes. So we're getting great games, but will Michigan live up to what they need to be? We'll see. You can never go wrong with the Florida Georgia game. Like,
true.
That's one thing I'm sad about. We don't have the 1990s fights as much. Thank you, Michigan and Michigan. Oh no, who was it? Michigan State and was it Michigan State and Michigan last week? Who gave us one of those at least, kind of. But I miss those team bench, clearing fights and making it all fun. Maybe we'll get that with the Florida Georgia game. Who knows? It's bad for me to root for people to fight, but
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't know. I mean, I understand. Like you want it to be intense, you want it to be chippy.
I love that I'm gonna stand on your logo and make your team know that I'm here. Granted, they're not, neither one of those teams are home. It's, always played in Jacksonville.
I was gonna call you out on that. Keep going.
Yeah. Anyways, and then I think the other games I'm kind of interested in are can A&M hold serve, can Tennessee hold serve, because those are losable games. South Carolina, what team's going to pop up? Kentucky, same way. You're playing these teams that are bouncing back and forth between week to week. And then last but not least, you wrap the week up with ACC at dark. SMU Pitt undefeated. Like,
Oh,
can't be too upset about that.
yeah. I'm very excited for that game.
So,
Um,
you've been in that SMU stadium too, huh?
yeah. It's nice, right? It's not huge. I don't even know exactly what the capacity is. Maybe like 40,000,
Probably.
42. It's not huge, but there's not a bad seat in the house, right? Like, um, and a pretty cool place, like again on campus to go take in a game. So I don't think we have a single Pitt listener, but if you do, like, and you can make that trip, do it.
Yeah. The only other game I would say that I'm excited to see is Boise State, San Diego State, because they play Friday night. It's a chance to be again in front of the national television, and I want to see Ashton D go off. I want to see him. I know you're facing 8-9 man boxes, but I still want to see you go off. He had a bad week last week. He ran for 133 or 120 yards and 33 carries or something like that. But if you watched, I don't know if you watched that game. There
I
are
did. Yeah.
4 plays that he got caught by a shoelace.
Yeah. They were very close to being out the gate.
To be honest, it reminded me of USC against LSU, where they made all these game-changing tackles to keep to win that game, and that was kind of what it was. It's like he was close to breaking it every single time, and I just want to see him break it in front of national television, where everybody's focusing on him. So,
no, I'm right there with you. You hit, I think, a lot of the high ones for me as far as like just intrigue. I kind of wanted to just break down a couple, like A&M on the road at South Carolina. Sandstorm playing. Do you remember 2 years ago when was it 2 years ago or last year? I feel it had to have been 2 years ago. I think for them to go there and Texas A&M is gosh, I wish I had the scores, but they go in there and they're a pretty small favorite, but they're undefeated, maybe one loss, like maybe 6-1, 7-0, something in that. It's kind of the same part of the season ish, and they get run out of the South Carolina, I believe, returns the opening kickoff for a touchdown, and the game's like you can just kind of see it. The game's over. I don't think you've ever seen the movie A Bronx Tale. Have you ever seen it?
no, I haven't.
Oh, okay. Anyway, there's there's a scene in it where it's the story of a kid who like is kind of connected with the mafia in Bronx, and they run a bar, and some bikers that had been known for like trashing bars come into the bar, and the gangster lets them in. He says, like, all right, come have a drink, sure, because they technically are violating the dress code, and they're just like, hey, we're just gonna have a couple beers and we're gonna leave. And he says, okay, fine, go ahead. And so as they like are being served, they start throwing like the beers at the bartender, and he goes, you guys need to leave. And then I can't even remember exactly. Gosh, I'm gonna forget it. Anyway, he says like, you guys need to leave, and they kind of brush him off. They're like, hey, get back here and go pour some more drinks. And he goes and locks the door and he says, okay, now you can't leave.
Yeah, I've seen this.
Now you can't leave. Yeah, okay, so you know what I'm talking about. Well, that was what it was like 2 years ago when A&M like shows up there. They're again a small favorite. I think Vegas kind of saw like, hey, this game has the potential to be close. And South Carolina, I think, just runs them out of the building. What was? Yeah, I see you're working over there.
30-24 was the score.
It was only 30-24. Okay, what was the like?
That's the only time they've won in the last.
Did they open up? Well, what was like? I mean, did they have a big lead and then A&M made it pretty at the end?
Yeah, let me see. 2022. All right, and this is good air, but let me see what I've got.
Okay. No, you're good.
South Carolina opened up strong with 17 points in the first 6 minutes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it felt like it was almost like, all right, the game is basically over from the beginning. I guess, yeah, I'm looking at that box score. Okay, maybe I don't remember that exactly correctly, but it was
No, South Carolina was up
Close.
17-3, and then in the second quarter, A&M gets it close, and then and South Carolina wins it. So
Okay. But yeah, I just like I'm worried about this game for A&M, right? Like you have a really really good defensive line that has to this point every time they've had an opportunity to really make a name for themselves against a pretty good offensive line and a pretty good offensive unit has held their own, right? They gave LSU some real problems and they gave Alabama some real problems. Uh, I don't know. I like this one's. I
and
think that's the biggest one that I'm concerned about with.
you had a week to focus on the Connor Wegman side of the game, and because you had a bye week last week, and now you can take this week to focus on the Marcel Reed part of the game, and your team's going to be so prepared. Like,
Yeah, for what both of them bring.
yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, and again, if anything, Beamer gets the boys up to play. Like you can say what you will about all the game day tactics and some of the miscues that they've had, but they play hard. Like
yeah,
they'll bring it. So
yeah.
I'm excited to watch that one. I think if you're an A&M fan, you are very nervous
And it's a 7:30
going into
game.
Columbia.
I'm excited for it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Other ones you want to break down? Let's see. Oh yeah, let's talk Ohio State, Penn State. We already kind of talked about it a little bit on the last pod.
We did.
Um, ah, this is another one where, again, home team I think has a decided might not be the right word, but I think has a favorable matchup in their defensive line against the opposing offense's offensive line. So I think Penn State's defensive line will win the day against Ohio State's offensive line. The question is, the explosive threats that Ohio State has on the outside, can they get something that's either a quick hitter that they slip and go for deep yardage, or can they hold up for one or two plays to get some of those, whether it's Jeremiah Smith um, or Carnell Tate or any of the other weapons on the Ohio State offense on the outside, like to get them deep, get them behind the defense. Um, I am fascinated to see this game. We already kind of lamented that it's not a night game for Penn State, but I think that they will bring the energy. I'm excited to be uh, to take that in. Obviously, not personally, but just via the television. I don't know. Like again, I feel I said this last episode. Something just tells me Penn State's ready for this one. I'm a believer
Drew
in Penn
Aller's
State this
expected to
year.
be a game time decision. That's what my biggest worry is.
Yeah, true.
But I mean, your backup went what 11 for 13 last week and two touchdowns, or no, and a touchdown. Like,
And he's facing a different type of opponent here, but I think again, I think the recipe for success if you're Penn State is, hey, run the football, establish the run. Don't ask him to do much. Like really, if you can win this game 7-6 or 9-6, I'm okay with that. I'm okay playing, uh, a lot of possession games where we play great defense. We punt and we keep the score to a minimum. If this game is the the teens, I'm feeling okay if I'm Penn State. If it's in the 20s, I might be nervous with a backup QB where I may need to go and get some points.
understandable.
So
Yeah, I just
that's my strategy if I'm James Franklin. It's like, hey, let's do the whole underdog thing. Run the ball, shorten the game, play great defense, play field position. Don't let them beat us over the top. Trust our defensive line to get them behind the chains at some point on a drive, right? Like if you have to keep moving the ball, all I need is one or two negative plays to get you behind the chains.
and the key is can they stop Penn State, or can Penn State's defense stop Ohio State's offense? That's the key, because Ohio
Yeah,
State has. I mean, you have so many weapons. Quayshawn Judkins. You have the receivers on the outside. I can't, and Megba and what's the freshman?
Emeka Egbuka,
Yeah,
Jeremiah Smith,
yeah,
Carnell Tate.
or whatever. I can't ever say his name. How do you say it?
I think it's Emeka Egbuka, but I could be. That's what I hear people
All
say.
all I hear is first rounder when you talk. That's
Yeah,
all.
big. Yeah, Ohio State wide receiver is really
Yeah,
all you need to know.
yeah, first rounder, and then you have on top of that like Carnell Tate, and then like this is why you went out and got Will Howard to not be like a dynamic force, but to get the ball to those players. And Kyle McCord showed last week that he wasn't the person that was going to be able to do that with his 6 interceptions or 5 interceptions or whatnot. But Will Howard hasn't had that problem with this team, and he's been able to get them to it when it matters. They were able to break 2 deep balls against Nebraska's defense. Nebraska's line gave them fits. They couldn't run the ball against them. I think their running backs combined for like 55, 56 yards last week.
Yeah.
Like they couldn't do it, but they were still able to win the game, and still able to score upwards of 20 points. And that's what I think you're saying. If they can bring this game into the teens, I don't think Penn State can. So I'm excited at this game. I want Penn State to get over the hump. I'm very much a James Franklin fan, but I'm not counting the beast Slade until I see a knife stick in his neck. So
that's true. All right. Yeah, I'm excited for that one. I don't know if I really have like a big breakdown for any other games. For our BYU listeners, they're on bye this week, which, hey, can't lose on a bye. That's a good thing.
I had discussions
when
with
you're
my
undefeated.
father this week or yesterday. No, tonight. And we were talking about how fun it's been to watch BYU, and I go, I'm kind of a little sad to not see BYU play this week because they are an entertaining team. Like
they are fun. Yeah.
Honestly, like they go for it on fourth downs. They run trick plays. They have a team that forces fun and defenses or fun turnovers. They have some crazy plays. I think they won the play of the week award from the Pop-Tarts people this week.
With the double snap?
Yeah, the double snap.
With the fake field goal? Yeah.
Yeah, like they are just a fun team to watch. And there are teams that go about and handle their business, and there's teams that like have a little bit of flair. And this team has a little bit of flair, and it's kind of fun to watch, and I'm sad that they're not playing this weekend. Although both teams getting ready for that Holy War. I'm ready for that.
Which is the late game 2 weeks from now, so that'll be fun.
Wait, why don't we get together and do that together?
I will be out of town. Sorry.
Bummer. We'll have to talk about that. Dang it. Okay. Anyways,
Duke, Miami. Can we talk about number one? Duke is still 6-2. Manny Diaz has them bowling in his first year. I mean, I don't expect them to beat Miami, but the storyline, I'm a storylines guy. He was fired by Miami. He's got them playing pretty well. Again, they went for 2 against SMU this past week, didn't get it. We're right in that. Otherwise, they're right in the thick of the ACC race as well. This is one of those ones where if I'm Duke, again, it's a noon game in Miami. No one's going to be there.
Let's be real. Duke does not have the firepower to pull this off.
But
I would love it, but they don't. They have a defense that can keep Miami down to 25, 30 points, but they don't have an offense that can score 25 or 30 points.
Right. So I think the recipe here is you have to kind of play this like the Cal game, like Cal played Miami, I should say, where it's, hey, we have to unload the clip in terms of like how can we scheme 1 or 2 guys open, right? Like just make coverage busts, which Miami has given up some stuff in their secondary, and you have to play super sound defense, make them earn it. What?
I mean, outside of the Florida State game, Miami's given up 34 points every single game for the last 3 games.
Exactly. So there's some holes there. There's things to be taken advantage of. Again, I'm not projecting a Duke win, but this is one where if I'm Manny Diaz and I have the locker room like I think he does, I might say, guys, this one means so much more to me than most games. Like, please, let's go kill this team.
The problem is I mean, you have a team that scored over 30 points once, over 27 points once.
Yeah. I'm not saying they're going to. I'm saying this is how you have to approach it. I'm going for everything. I'm super aggressive on offense. I'm not conservative in this game. I know I need to manufacture points, like you said. So I'm going to give myself as many at bats as I can when it comes to scoring points, going for it on fourth down, and then hoping you can force a turnover too. Cam Ward's been pretty good, but he also has been shaky and has been bailed out from a couple of would-be interceptions. He's made some questionable decisions throwing it back across the middle of the field. You have to kind of get a little lucky in which Cam Ward shows up, right?
I agree. That's the blueprint. The other thing that you have to fight is the ACC refs, because the ACC, in my opinion, is trying to make sure Miami gets to the championship game because they need Miami and they need Clemson there because they need
Yeah,
a team. The ACC needs a team that isn't trying to lead the conference to win the
yeah. They,
conference.
they need a brand name. Yeah, yeah. And Dan Radakovich, the Miami AD, has made it very clear how happy he is in the ACC. So
And to be honest, I do feel I'll be completely honest. I do feel like the calls are being like that. I feel like there's been something said to the ACC saying, "Hey, make sure this team is fortunate." And so, anytime you have a chance to call a hold or whatever else. If Miami's up,
you're going full tinfoil hat. I like it.
oh dude,
Uh,
I'm full tinfoil hat. But I've watched their games and
yeah, the no targeting on Cal is pretty
yep.
hard to understand. Um, yeah. All right. Yeah. Okay. So we talked about holding serve. Like, who do you think is least likely to do it?
Um, I think A&M's the least likely,
Okay. So
but
A
I could
and M's on
also
upset alert.
let
Anybody else jump out at you as like, oh, this could be a
me see.
problem?
I'm
Clemson,
interested on it.
Louisville.
Huh?
Clemson,
I don't believe
Louisville.
in Louisville at all.
Okay.
I don't believe that Louisville's that great a team. I feel like they're okay, but I'm like that Kentucky Tennessee game will be interesting to me. Can they score? If Kentucky can score, they can make that a really good game.
And the total on that, what, 45 and a half?
Yeah,
So
that means you're paying like a 31 to 14 win or 30 to 15 win based off
yeah,
the
that's
line.
kind of the rough
Yeah,
spread on that one.
that seems high to me.
It does.
Like the spread seems high,
And
but
maybe
also
even
like
the total.
yeah. I mean Tennessee struggled as of late to score,
Yeah.
so
We'll see. They're coming out of a bye week. Maybe they got back in the lab and are able to get some things sorted out. But
yeah.
I've got some question marks. We'd
Also
already
Indiana.
talked Pitt SMU, right? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I would say Indiana could be in for a world of a little bit of frustration. Your quarterback isn't back. Michigan State's already got this. Maybe back. Your quarterback may be back. Michigan State's got some tape of how you just had a game plan without him. They've had weeks to see with him, and Michigan State, although they lost, their play has been ascending lately. So
Yeah, they've been much more game in these last couple of games. They've been pretty scrappy.
I'll tell you that.
Basically post Oregon.
Yeah, that -8 Indiana seems pretty a little high for me. I don't know if I'd take that at all. So
All right. Good to know. Good to know. Um, let's see,
yeah,
any
you want
others
to
that
talk
jump
Pitt
out? It's
SMU?
yeah. I mean, we already kind of did, right? Like, I don't know if we really.
Last but not least, I would say like what was I looking for? You talked about Iowa State going into, or is it at Lubbock? No, it's in Iowa State. Okay, so they're playing Texas State in Iowa State.
It's a big game, though. I
Yeah,
mean, uh, Texas Tech is kind of holding on to their Big 12 title hopes for they're kind of hanging by a thread. So a big one to score a win in Ames if you were to able to pull it off against Iowa State on the road, taking kind of the co-conference there. I guess technically like BYU's the in sole possession of first place just by virtue of being 5-0 versus 4-0, but taking one of those favorites down a peg. And perhaps giving yourself an opportunity to make maybe some late season magic with. I mean, if you do that and then the next week you host Colorado, like you still like in theory can turn this into something where you've got an outside chance, but you're going to need some help, of course.
yeah. Is there a reason why that spread is so big? I mean, 14 points seems a little high.
I don't know if there's any like injuries that we should be accounting for, and I'm not aware of that. It does seem maybe a touch high to me as well.
So, Texas Tech's lost their QB against TCU.
Oh,
Um,
did he go down in that game? I didn't know that.
yeah, it was unsure after what Morton injured after initial X-rays. So I don't know. So we'll see if he ends up playing or not.
Maybe
That
that's a
Texas Tech
function of
has
that.
been a team that scores. They average like 30 to 33 points a game. based off of what I've seen. Even in their losses, they're averaging that. And Iowa State is a team that scores low 30s, high 20s. That fabric has me thinking that should be a much closer game. I'll have to do some digging into this QB status, but we'll see.
Yeah, and I think what maybe is maybe kind of being at play there is Iowa State's defense is pretty good. If you look at this, they have held
Yeah,
most of their opponents. So like I don't know how many outside of the UCF who scored 35 this last week. The next highest point total they've given up was to Baylor, and it was 21. So I think that's probably part of it is they're
right.
expecting Iowa State's defense to slow down the offense. Not to mention if they're working with a backup quarterback, that might change it dramatically. Um, so yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm excited to see. Again, that's an important data point. The Cyclones got to hold serve, like we said. It's another one where you're a double digit favorite. Don't mess it up. But if you
It
do,
does feel like though the weekends when you don't expect or anything is when everything gets flipped on its head a little bit.
I
So
know, and that's where it's like this one. Yeah, yeah. I'm kind of hoping for that too because on paper it looks like okay. Outside of you know the Ohio State game at the beginning of the night, and then yeah, like SMU Pitt at the end. There's not a whole lot of teams where it's like, okay, these ones are like really evenly matched. Like,
yeah,
and even then, like the SMU, I think is a 7.5 point favorite at home versus Pitt. So it's like there's still a pretty significant gap there. But yeah. So hopefully this one's one of those where college football surprises us. Um, yeah, looking forward to it. I don't know if I have any others that we want to break down or if we want to just go right into picks.
no, I don't have any others. The only thing I'm gonna say is we haven't had a boring week yet.
Yeah,
Um,
knock on wood, cross our fingers.
yeah, I expect that trend to continue because we have so much. I mean, there's so many teams that are just all in the same ballpark of good to average to a little bit better than good. So a lot of parity going on. Yeah, let's go picks.
All right, let's do it. I'll share the screen again just so that you can see it and the folks at home. I'm not sure if they'll really be able to actually see like the. In fact, maybe I can zoom in a little bit more so it's even easier. Give me just a second to get this pulled up in a way that is readable. All right, let's try that. Let me share. Okay, so you have held a commanding lead throughout this entire process. Um, you have a 30-19 record on the year. This past week, you went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 3.
Mm-hmm.
So excellent, well done. Do you want to recap the week that was real quick?
Yeah, I can do that. Indiana versus Washington. I kind of predicted that Indiana would find a way to win that game against Washington. Um, they struggled a little bit at first, but then found their footing. But like I said, they're going to run the ball. The under will hit it, and it does. The UCF BYU game, I said to everybody, I'm taking happiness insurance. It doesn't necessarily mean I think that's how it's going to play out, but it's always good to take happiness insurance. The Penn State Wisconsin game had me scared a little bit. Halftime
Yeah,
score was like,
halftime trailing. Yeah,
oh yeah, but then the pick six put things moving in the right direction, and they were able to pull it out. Nebraska 20 plus 25 versus Ohio State. For the record, I picked more dogs than I had in any other week, or maybe all my weeks combined. And I hit on two of them, three of them, two of them,
2 of the 4,
two of the four, two of the five.
2 of the 5. Sorry, yes.
But I still hit two dogs, which is good for me. I had that Nebraska game pegged. The Missouri Alabama game, I can't predict Cook coming out. And Vanderbilt, like I said, plays teams close. They played Texas close, and then the Syracuse game, you can't predict Kyle McCord throwing 5 interceptions.
Yeah, that one's like hard to blame you on that.
Two big flukes in that game in those picks. So
Nice. I'll quickly recap mine. Miami minus 22 versus FSU. Again, we were early in the week, so it was 21. They won by 22. Um, BYU UCF over 55 total points. I expected more of an offensive output from UCF kind of to start the game.
mm-hmm.
So thank you for the little backdoor cover on the over here with 14 points late to to push it over. Uh, Michigan State plus 5.5 at Michigan. Close, no cigar on that.
What was the final
Uh,
score of that game?
so they lost by 7. I think it was 24-17.
Mm.
And truth be told, it could have been a little bit. I mean, there was some mistakes played. Like Michigan didn't play. Uh, Michigan State didn't play a great game. Michigan had like a halfback toss that scored a couple of things where it's like there were some chances there that got away from them. The SMU Duke game kills me because they were up 21-7 in the third quarter. I was just like, all
Yeah.
right, like you're not home yet, but you're looking really good. And the game goes to overtime. They end up winning by 1 point. So that one was a kind of one that I expected a little bit more offensive output from SMU. They really stalled really in the entire second half. They couldn't really move the ball. And then the first play of overtime, they score a 25-yard touchdown. I was like, where has this been, guys? Like, Missouri, yeah, we talked about Missouri, Bama on that one. Utah, Houston under 37. Like, thank you. It's funny because like I was like, man, 37 is not that many points, but it's Houston and it's Utah. So that one wasn't even that close. It was what 17-14. So
Yeah, 31 total.
31. So like, yeah, I guess it was 6 points off. So like another touchdown would have done it. But anyway, and then
But with touchdowns,
Colorado.
touchdowns are
Yeah,
hard to
yeah,
come by.
touchdowns are hard to come by. There only was 4 in the game. Colorado 5.5 versus Cincinnati. Yeah, I don't think people have caught on. Colorado's a pretty good team now. Um, so with that all being said, week 10 again, you had the better record. You're 30-19 on the year, so it is yours. You're first off the tee box.
I don't love having to always go first, but I do like
I can go
winning.
first if you want me to.
No, I'll definitely go. Give me Oregon minus 15 in the big house against Michigan. This team is ascending. They're rolling. Can Michigan score very much against this team? I think Dan Lanning's going to have a good game plan, and I think they'll lock down. I mean, Michigan doesn't have receivers, so all you have to do is worry about the tight end and the running game. And I think Oregon's got that handled. They'll be able to score plenty in this game, so give me Oregon to win and cover. Kansas State at Houston. Give me Kansas State minus 13. Kansas State's been rolling. They can continue to roll. They had an interesting game last week against Kansas, but I think they pull this one out.
Sorry, what was the spread?
Minus 13. This Houston team's gotten better, but I'm still out on that Houston team. Give me some happiness insurance. UNC minus 2.5 at FSU. I'm looking at that line. That one is an interesting one for me because where am I at? Let me pull that up real quick. Yeah. So the over-under is at 51, yet you have UNC only favored by 2.5 points. So in my head, that's like a 26-24 win. Florida State hasn't scored 24 points since the first game. They haven't scored 24 points all year. So something's off. Either your spread is off, or your margin's off. Give me both are off. I think the spread's off. I think UNC wins. I think the under hits though.
And it's under. Sorry, what was the number?
51. All right. Give me Navy minus 11 at Rice. Navy is going to right the ship. They put all their fumbles and issues last week against Notre Dame. They'll fix this one.
Rice fired their coach this week too. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah, I'll take it. USC minus 2.5 at Washington. I think this USC team is capable of scoring lots and lots of points. They've had some interesting showings where they haven't quite been able to get there, but I think they're the better team, and I think they're better by more than a field goal. Essentially, I feel like a 2.5 point is almost like, hey, are you going to win or not, to some degree. All right, and then we're going to go 2 that I'm not sure on, but I'm going to put them down. These are my 2 that I'm like the least confident in. Give me UF plus 16.5 against UGA. Is that still a line? Yeah, plus 16.5. This UF team is starting to round into form. I think they play this Georgia team tough, and it'll be interesting how they face their old running back. The one thing that scares me about this game is Georgia always decides to play good teams well, or teams that they care about. They start to blow out, And so that's the one thing I'm worried about is will Georgia care about this game? And I don't know if Florida's proven that they're good enough for Georgia to care about this game yet, but give me UF close. And then last but not least, give me South Carolina plus 2.5. Texas A&M at South Carolina plus 2.5. Like you said, it's gonna be a fun night game. You don't know what Carolina team's gonna show up, but there's a good chance that A&M could lose this game. I'm not sold on either quarterback, but their defense is good, so hopefully we'll see a good game there. But there you go.
Alrighty. How many did you go with this week? 8. 8. Impressive. All right. I will pick up. Sorry, my phone keeps like going to sleep. All right. I don't have near as many on the board as you do. And there's one that I am just really waffling on.
That's how I felt like about the UF and South Carolina. I just said, throw them on there. It makes it more fun. I can do that when I have a +5,
Yeah, when you're out in front like you are. All right. So first one, I guess first things first. Yeah, I'm going back to my auto play. UNC minus 2.5 at FSU. I really like your play on the total there. It's just sorry, I didn't even put that. I need to put under total. Under 51
Just put
total points.
51. If I get it right, I get total.
There you go. That's right. So I think that one makes sense. You could even go like FSU team total under, but UNC doesn't play a whole lot of defense, so I don't know what to make of that one.
Yeah, but I would love for them to prove me wrong, but if they don't, I get a win.
Yeah. Here's what I see. UCF 2 touchdowns late with the 4th string QB. Had some juice. Give me UCF minus 6.5 versus Arizona. Arizona's reeling. Like I feel like they're kind of in a tailspin right now. Let me spell that right too. Versus Arizona. I just like that's a really long travel. UCF was fortunate to, not fortunate that they played BYU and lost, but like they're home for 2 straight weeks, so they're not traveling. They're well rested. I think they may have found a spark in the 4th string QB, and I still like that defensive line. I think there's times where BYU opened up some lanes, but if they can circle the wagons, that's one that they got to have if they want to go bowling still. Like UCF's got to have this win against Arizona, so I think they get it. I think they cover.
Yeah, and Arizona hasn't won in a month, so
yeah, it's things aren't looking so strong there. The next one that I have is Arizona State travels to Oklahoma State. 3-point road favorites. I think they cover. I am nervous about Oklahoma State and how invested they are in the season at this point. So give me Arizona State.
Who starts for Oklahoma State that week?
I think it's got to be Rangel if he's healthy, right? I don't know who played for them last week. I don't know that part, and that's Arizona State. Really, I think that they the danger here is that you have Jeff Sims playing quarterback, and
Sam Levitt should be cleared for this game though.
Really? Okay, I thought he would be
5 years ago.
Even better. So that has that line moved? Like,
let me see what I've got on the line. I'll hit F5 real quick. And what are we on? Arizona State?
Arizona State versus Oklahoma State. I should say at Oklahoma State.
No, it's still -3 per DraftKings.
Okay. All right. Let's see here. What else do I have? Oh, I like your Washington USC play. I have kind of a different angle of approach on that game. I think Washington's, they're the home team. I think they want to be physical and muscle up Southern Cal. I don't know if they necessarily win the game, but I do think that game goes under 55.5 points. So give me USC at Washington under 55.5. I think you're on the right side of that. I think they are. Again, go Dogs. I'm totally on that. I think they'll run the football. There's some pieces in the secondary that might be able to slow down USC just enough to keep it under the total, right? Like next one I've got. I can't believe I'm doing this one. Iowa -3 versus Wisconsin. Iowa's scoring some points. Don't look now, but they're scoring some points. Wisconsin coming off of a really tough home loss, and now you got to go on the road. Uh, go to Iowa City, and I like the Hawkeyes to go and get the job done and cover the 3. Those are
Do
the
you,
only ones I had written down. Oh,
do you know
sorry.
Iowa's totals in their last few games? How many points they've scored?
I scored like 40 this last week, right?
40 last week. They only scored 20 against Michigan State. They struggled, but then 40 against Washington. I mean, they put up. I think it's 3 or 4 40 pointers this year, which is kind of who is this Iowa team? But we do
Yeah.
have some times where they've scored only 7 or 12 or 19. So we'll see. That Wisconsin team scares me. I don't know which was. It's like Minnesota. There's a few of those teams in that Big Ten that are in the mid range that I'm not sure what team's going to show up. There's a chance that they could cover. There's a chance that they couldn't cover, and I'm not willing to take the risk on those teams sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. The last one that I'll throw out there as well. Um, so the Kentucky Tennessee game, 16 and a half points. Or Kentucky, yeah, Tennessee, it's a 16 and a half point spread. I don't think we're getting to 45 and a half points in that game. I think they both play reasonable defense.
They're great.
Can,
Both have good defensive lines. So yeah.
yeah, I think like a defensive score might be a problem here, but I'll say go ahead and put Tennessee and Kentucky under 45 and a half. And I'm also looking at that SMU Pittsburgh game, and 59 seems high, but I might just leave it. I'll go with 6. That's plenty.
Give me one more.
Give you one
Give me
more.
Oklahoma to cover against Maine, 34 and a half.
Oh,
Oklahoma has a chance to score. Why not? They're going to score as much as they can.
It's 30 and a half.
34 and a half.
34 and a half.
That one's
They
for you.
probably they probably will do that. Yeah, yeah. There's an olive branch. Well, I think it was the last episode. Was it the last? I know we're recording these back to back, so I can't remember which one you threw shade on. If it was earlier this episode or the past one. Yeah, I think that's it for me. But yeah, if you are, I'm not suggesting anyone do this, but like this would be one of those weeks since there's like not on paper lots of matchups. Something that could make games a little more interesting. Toss some shekels on something. I'm not. That's not gambling advice. Don't do
What
it.
decade
But
are you living in? Shekels? What century?
I don't. I don't know. Whatever. Any parting shots for this one? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if I
Man.
have anything else.
I'm just excited to see if teams can hold serve like we talked about earlier. And I don't know who gets fired. Oh, that's one of the things that we kind of talked about real quick. Is like, is it good to fire your coach now? If you fire your coach, you start that portal window of when people can leave. 30 days, and you end it before the main transfer window. So you kind of already know who already is going to get into the portal.
Yeah, who, or at least who even talked to you about it during that
Yeah,
preliminary
I
period?
think
Yeah,
this is the time to start firing your coach this week. Like, you better, if you're going to fire a coach, fire him this week or next week, so that come December when the transfer portal opens up, you know what you need, what needs you need to go get, because the kids have already had a chance to go, and as soon as your season's over, they'll announce it. But you already had the talks too. So
yeah, yeah. Who would you expect to be in that?
who does Napier get fired?
No, I don't think he does.
I know that's kind of crazy that people were sitting there saying that earlier.
Yeah, we were so confident that he would be gone.
Yeah,
Well done. Good job, Billy Napier. I applaud it.
it's going to be fortunate for Miami that Florida State and Florida have to keep their coaches this year.
Yeah, maybe. Cool. I don't have anything else. You got anything else?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay, a longer preview pod this time because there's a lot of mystery with this week, just with it being like on paper kind of a snoozer, but I don't know. That's always when college football surprises us. So we're looking forward to it. We'll see you on the next one. Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, go Dogs, go Knowles.
Go home.
Bye.